Hello, ghoulies and ghosties. We're here for another episode of Nerds and Nightmares. I am your host, Prince Luffy, here with my wonderful and fabulous co-host, Rudy.
Hi, everybody. So we're doing something a little different. We are still going to do the episode of Mary Shelley, but we were both like, hey, that Obsession movie is really good. And it's a horror film. Why don't we talk about it? Because we have a lot to talk about this movie. I finally saw it this week.
I saw it last night.
So yeah, I'm actually like really excited about this just because I still want to really talk about it. I do think this is going to be like my favorite film. So far, it's my favorite film of the year. So
I'm going to pause us for 1 second and just note that we are going to be discussing some serious topics in this episode, such as misogyny, sexual assault and consent, some mentions of animal abuse, and things along those lines. So, yep, many violence and bodily fluids.
A massive trigger warning on this. So if you do not think you can handle this, you can totally skip this episode.
Yep.
All right.
Now go ahead.
So we're going to get into the history because this is sort of a new trend. I guess we have a lot of YouTubers becoming legitimate directors because this was directed by a YouTube sketch comedian by the name of Curry Barker, who first uploaded his horror short film, The Chair, onto his channel in 2023. And that was discovered by a producer, James Harris, who gave him an offer to adapt it into a feature film. But Barker decided to pitch Obsession instead. And I guess, so he sent over like a pager that is a single document that lays out the basic plot points, and a lookbook, which is like kind of like a scrapbook to show the tone and the genre, the imagery and stuff. And apparently, Harrison liked it.
Basically, he had a whole ass pitch set up for Obsession already. So, he ended up signing on to with the William Morris Endeavor agency, but currently their name is just William Morris Endeavor, to direct the film. And Barker received a $1 million budget.
Oh, dang.
He apparently turned down a offer for double that, for a $2 million budget, under the I can't remember the word that I'm looking for, but basically they said, if you rewrite the script with Bear as a hero, we'll give you twice the budget. And Barker said no.
We love somebody who has integrity. And so this was interesting, but Barker revealed that he was inspired by a specific episode of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, the second one, where Lisa has a nightmare involving the monkey's paw. If you are not aware, the monkey's paw is this like famous mystical item from a old short story where a man and a woman, their son has died, unfortunately, in the war, and they discover the monkey's paw, but the wishes that the monkey's paw grants are not perfect wishes. There's something wrong, and the mother, the wife, ends up being so upset that her son's dead that she wishes he would come back, but then the husband realizes like, no, this is not a good idea, and he wishes everything to be undone. I remember reading it in like, I think, high school.
Yeah, I also read it. It was written in 1902 by W.W. Jacobs.
What a name.
And it's been adapted into films. It's the concept has been used all over horror for ages.
You make the wish, but it comes out wrong. We're gonna get more into that. So this took it took Barker 8 months to complete the script, which he wrote while he was still working at a coffee shop. I understand that. I'm a writer, and when you have a real job, it's hard to sit down and write. And it was during this time period that he also released his first feature film, Milk and Cereal. It's still on YouTube, and that ended up getting like millions of views. And one of the
and that is spelled cereal like serial killer.
Yeah. I think the guy who played Ian was in this too. Like, he and Barker are friends.
Yes.
Oh, no, I didn't know this. So this is interesting. Barker's mother is a graphic designer and helped him design the One Wish Willow box. And the father
Yeah.
contributed to the Hansel and Gretel monologue to the script, so the entire family is creative.
Yep. And both of those things are, in my opinion, extremely iconic to the film.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's really
I
cool
legit
that they
thought the
were
One Wish
involved.
Willow was a real thing because the box looked so real. Like, this looked like something that was from, like, what, maybe the 60s or 70s or something like that looked real to me.
Yeah. She did a fabulous job with making the logo look old timey, I guess, like something, yeah, you would see maybe, for a couple cents in like the 50s or 60s.
Mhm.
So the film was bankrolled by Capstone Studios after producer James Harris shared the script with the studio founder Christian Mercury. It's either Mercury or Mercury. And initially, Barker considered casting himself as Bear, the main character, but ultimately decided not to do this. Go ahead. You can go right.
Okay, so amid a lengthy casting process, Mercury decided on just Indy Narvat. I'm gonna try to just say this.
I think it's
Narvaretta.
Navarette.
Okay, she was cast in part because Baker felt she the balance between crazy and scary of Wish Nikki, as well as the broy kind of sassy person of the OG Nikki. And all of Nikki's facial expressions, screams, and vocal changes were achieved without CGI or AI through a tight collaboration between Barker and Navarette. There's a lot of scenes where Nikki's like lurking in the background. So all those shots were achieved via practical effects using makeup that was partially inspired by the uncanny makeup trend on TikTok. That's interesting.
Yeah. I personally don't have TikTok, so I haven't seen the Uncanny Valley makeup, but whatever they did worked. Apparently, prior to filming, Barker had Navarette watch the films Hereditary, Midsommar, and Pearl. Navarette, in particular, said her inspirations for the character were Betty Gabriel in Get Out, who played a minor character in Get Out. The woman who says that like everything is fine with like the tear coming down her face.
Yeah.
Toni Collette in Hereditary, which and Mia Goth in Pearl.
Okay, so
yeah, it was a which I think that her inspirations, especially the first one, are very interesting to me. Both how she might view the character of Nikki and how she was like approaching it. Anyway, prior to shooting, Barker and cinematographer Tyler Clemens did something called pre-visualization, where they would go to all of the different locations and 3D scan them and recreate them as digital models so that they could essentially try to cut down on like too many retakes and reshoots and stuff like that by planning it out beforehand and how the shots would look.
that's a good idea. So they began shooting in October 24, and they filmed it in Los Angeles. There only 26 days, and that included reshoots and covering like 5 to 6 script pages daily. So they put in a lot of work.
Yeah, that's rapid fire.
Yeah, and like I feel like some people don't understand that like 1 million, it is a lot of money, but when it comes to like a movie, you kind of have to make it stretch, if that makes any sense. You can make a good movie with $1 million, as we've seen, but like you don't have the budget, say, of like a Marvel film or something.
Yeah. Clemens apparently shot the film primarily in center composed shots, meaning like the the action, so to speak, is like in the center, but he left quote unquote extra headspace. So like kind of like space at the top to create shots that felt like uncanny and uncomfortable visually to make the viewer feel a little bit off kilter. They also apparently reshot the opening scene, and mild spoilers before we get to the plot, I guess, but in an attempt to do a better job conveying the way that Bear doesn't want to fix, like the reason why he doesn't want to fix the situation with Vicky right away. They added the scene with the haircut and emphasized that Bear really wants to make it work.
The production had to forgo reshoots of the party scene after the house so the house that they filmed it at was burned down in the 25 LA fires, and they filmed one take of Bear attempting to make himself vomit up the pills. The actor suggested that because he said it would it would fit, Bear's cowardly nature.
Yep. Barker initially, the initial ending for the film was apparently something more inspired by Romeo and Juliet, where Nikki commits suicide after breaking free from the wish, but on the advice of several people, including his father, who wrote the Hansel and Gretel monologue, and Tomlinson, who played Ian. He also shot a single take version where Nikki survives, which is ultimately the one they chose for the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I'm glad they did that. I don't think it wouldn't have been as good as if they had, done the whole like quote unquote romantic ending.
I will give that inspired by Romeo and Juliet doesn't necessarily mean that it's romantic, but I like that they kept a shade of it, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right. And now we're going to talk about the plot. I wrote an incredibly in-depth plot summary. If this episode ends up a little bit lengthier than our usual episodes, there's a lot to talk about. And a lot of important things.
A lot to talk about. All right. So we, of course, start off with Bear. It's a nickname, but everyone calls him.
Yes.
Bear. Yeah, Bear. I think his name is Bryson or something. So
Baron.
Yeah, Baron. He's confessing his feelings to what we think is Nikki. And it's very obvious that like he and Nikki have been friends for a long time. He's afraid that if he, confesses to her, it's going to mess things up. And then it turns out it's not Nikki he is confessing to.
Yeah. His friend Ian is sitting there, like, essentially watching the scene. He cuts in to tell Bear that this was a horrible, cringeworthy confession. This was just awful. And it turns out that it wasn't Nikki, that this woman wasn't Nikki. She was a waitress that they had roped into this this performance, and she tries to like give a little bit of advice. Oh, maybe you could give her some like flowers or candy or whatever. And Ian's like, Nikki doesn't like shit like that, and basically just dismisses her. He sits down at the table, and essentially we get a little bit of backstory. Bear is in love with Nikki for like the past 7 years. They met in like high school. They worked together at a music store with Ian and Sarah. And Ian's essentially like, get your shit together. You need to confess. And then he suggests flirting with Nikki via playful bullying, essentially, and calling her Freaky Nikki, which Bear points out was a name that was used to bully her when they were students.
Yeah, she didn't like that.
Yeah. Ian then keeps telling him, and I thought that this was important, which is why I noted it, that you have all the time in the world, all you have is time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So then So here's the thing: is I do think this does a pretty good job of sort of making you feel bad for Bear, like at the beginning, because when he gets home, he finds that uh, uh, his cat Sandy is dead. She got into some. So Bear has moved into his late grandmother's house, and for some
Mhm.
reason, he didn't get get rid of her pills, and Sandy got into them, and she ate some oxycodone, which killed her.
Yep.
So he's crying on
Wait.
his bed. Um, and he doesn't tell for something. Okay, he doesn't tell Nikki that Sandy's dead right away. But he
Mhm.
took the day off, and Nikki calls him, as kind of like poking fun at him, asking if he comes to their weekly. He's gonna come to the weekly trivia night. Um, then Nikki says she's going to be putting in her 2 weeks at their
Mhm.
shared job. It's where all 4 of the friends work, and tells him that they're like running out of time.
She means that they're running out of time until trivia starts, but the language also kind of implies, oh, Bear is running out of time to confess.
Yeah.
And you can see him making like that decision in that moment. Go ahead.
Then I'm not sure what she was doing, because see, it's a music store, but she dropped her crystal necklace down the drain, and so Bear just goes to like a local crystal spiritual shop to get her a
Yeah.
replacement.
Hippie woo woo
Yeah,
store.
hippie woo store, and he asks, like, the woman at the store, the cashier, "Hey, what's the recommendation?" And I think it like went in one ear and out the other. Um, and he then notices a shelf with something called a one wish willow that is next to voodoo dolls. I'm using that in quote because they're not real voodoo dolls, but I digress.
They are labeled that though.
Yeah.
So novelty voodoo dolls, I guess. Which I also thought was kind of poignant. So he ends up going to the register to cash out, and she notices he didn't get the crystal, and like as he's about to pay for it, she's like, "Oh yeah, these have been really popular," and basically tells him not to come complain to them. And he's like, "Wait, like why are people complaining? Are they a scam?" And she gets a little pissy, like, "No." And she basically says they're collectibles, and the people who keep the boxes like closed don't seem to have problems, but the ones that open them come back and complain. And they're kind of jokingly asked, what does it not work, or oh, does it? And they regret what happened, so the cashier quips back, yeah, they might die or wish they were dead, which foreshadowing.
Okay, so let's see. So it's so they go so he goes to the bar, and it is Bear, Ian, Nikki, and Sarah. It seems like they've all been friends for an extremely long time. And also, like, Bear does not know how to be subtle, because he's trying to like say something to Ian, like, mouth the words and stuff. And Sarah and Nikki like pick up on it. It's like, what are you guys doing? So then Nikki goes to the bar to get some shots. He says he wants a pina colada, and she jokes with him, which I didn't know that people still drank pina coladas. I feel like that's an old person drink. um,
I guess it depends on what you like.
sure. He tries to pay, but Nikki pays. Bear, okay, I get Bear is really, really bad at this. Like,
He's very awkward. He
oh,
stumbles
yeah.
over everything that he says. He stutters a lot. But given some later revelations, the fact that as he's trying to talk to Nikki at trivia night, Ian comes up and to interrupt, and then like the conversation, and then they're joined by Sarah shortly after that, and they all take their shots, and Bear declares the cheers to Sandy. And as the rest of them are walking away, Nikki's kind of like, hey,
No, Sarah.
Why?
It's Sarah.
Hmm? I thought it was it Sarah who asked him about Sandy?
Yeah, and then she gives him a hug.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And that's what happened then.
So then,
yeah, he confesses she passed, but I thought it was Nikki, because then Nikki knows about it later when like it becomes a thing.
I think he tells her
in a
the
later
car.
scene.
So then after trivia, apparently they were going to go to karaoke. Nikki says she doesn't want to go. She wants to go home. So Bear offers to take her home. Nikki then gets $20 off.
I meant Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. And goes to buy drugs. Ian says, I don't know why Ian said this. He was like, get your girl home.
Yeah. Get your girl home safe.
Yeah. But Nikki's like, ew, don't say that.
Yeah. Which I think I noticed a lot of the lines as they were going along, especially both pre and post Wish, both things that I thought were foreshadowing and things that I thought were relevant to the way that the characters, especially Nikki, perceive like their relationship. And I thought that was a little bit on the nose. Essentially, they're driving home and they're talking about Nikki, who wants to be a writer, and she talks about wanting to leave the job because she needs a big life change. She claims that she needs to feel love in order to bring her story to life, and tells like Bear's like, oh, so it's a romance? And she's like, no, it's a love story, but not a romance. And he says, aren't those the same thing?
They're not.
And she just kind of goes, eh. Like, Bear then is like, oh, I have something to give you. And Nikki's like, why does that make me nervous? And he seems like offended, kind of like, I don't know.
Bear sucks. Okay, so so they pull up to Nikki's. She asks if Nikki is interested in Sarah, because it's kind of obvious that Sarah has a crush on him. He says he likes her as just a friend. And then Nikki gets out of the car. Bear's stumbling over his words. He recalls a story like when they were in high school, but Nikki kind of like blows it off. He then calls her freaky Nikki. And, she gets really offended because she doesn't like that. He knew that.
Yep.
So she then asks point blank if he likes her. And she says it's like, now's the time to tell her. And okay. So this is when I like kind of started I was already really frustrated with Bear. This is when I officially got like more frustrated with him. Instead of telling her his feelings, he says we're just good friends. He feels stupid for doing this, so he takes out the one wish Willow. Okay, and so we mentioned this is a monkey paw thing. So instead of saying I wish Nikki was in love with me, he says I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the fucking world, and he breaks the one wish Willow.
And note that the name is in fact one wish Willow. So unlike a monkey's paw, you don't get do-overs.
Yeah. A monkey's paw, like a hand, since a monkey has 5 fingers, you can make 5 wishes, but the one wish Willow only has 1 wish.
Yep. Person. So it's like almost immediately Nikki is on the porch in the like in the dark. She's shaded and she like comes over to the car, and first she's like, and she's like demanding the gift that he got her earlier, and considering the fact that he just used it, he's like, oh, it's at home. And then she tries to like invite him in, and she's being really coy, and she goes, it's really hard. I mean, I just lost my cat. And then corrects herself because it's not her who lost the cat. And Bear is kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, automatically, you can tell something is up. So they do go back to Bear's house because Nikki's being, like, really pushy. Um, she then, like, comments that the house smells like him. He lets her sleep on, his bed, and she asks him to sleep with her. And at first, I think he meant, like, lie down with her, but then she
Mm,
kisses him, but then she freaks out and screams like, "What the fuck?" And she falls off the bed, and Bear is like, this is again, I kind of felt like I lost sympathy for Bears when he's like, "You kissed me," you know, but doesn't be like, "Hey," like, she falls off the bed, and instead of being like, "Hey, are you all right?" The first thing he's like, "You kissed me."
yeah, Bear is a quintessential nice guy, something that we will discuss at length later. And I rapidly had pretty much zero sympathy for him from the
Like,
start.
I had a smidgen of sympathy when his cat died, but then it evaporated in this scene. It's like,
Yeah.
so, like, Nikki apologizes. Um,
I want to take a moment to compliment Navarrette's acting here, because when Nikki first comes back out to the car, her demeanor, everything from like the cadence of her voice to her little movements that she's making are unnatural and volleying between like rapid emotional changes. They don't seem right. And she manages to somehow take this behavior that's not necessarily like in isolation unnatural or strange or anything like that, and make it so creepy.
mhm. And she so I'm not saying that not like a lot of actors and actresses, I don't think they could do what she did, and I think she did a fantastic job because it makes it feel, like you said, unnatural, unsettling. Um, Now this is, I'm just gonna make a comment here. So, like, I feel that it is very obvious that something's off with Nikki because not only,
Mhm.
so that, they sleep in the same bed. He wakes up to find that Nikki has
Oh, we did skip over something from the car.
what did we just skip?
The part of the reason that she manages to convince Bear to take her back home with him
Oh, right.
is because she tearfully claims that her dad is dying of cancer and she does not want to be alone.
Keep that in mind. So,
Yeah.
when he wakes up, there's a nice breakfast prepared for him, but also, so you know how his cat died? Well, I'm guessing we saw him, like, clean up and have a trash bag. So possessed Nikki decides to go into the trash, take Sandy's corpse, and make a shrine to her in the kitchen. And
She's got her on a little pillow. There's candles. It's horrifying.
yeah, I remember that scene, and I was like, so here's the thing, you know, me and Luffy were two people that have, common sense. We're logical. If somebody, no, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter like how hot they are, but if somebody took my dead pet and made a shrine of that pet in my kitchen with the pet's dead body, I was like, "You gotta go."
Yeah.
But, like, Bear sorta treats it like, so they go to work, and, Bear talks to Ian, but he doesn't really tell Ian what Nikki did. He's just saying she's, like, freaking out and being weird and doesn't really, like, go into detail, and then he also mentions that, Nikki said that her dad has cancer.
Father is
Yeah,
cancer.
and but Ian's, like, remembering, she's been on drugs before, she might possibly be on Molly, which is
We literally saw her buy drugs in the parking lot.
yeah, I hang on, I don't remember what Molly is the name for.
MDMA.
Yeah, MDMA. I am not saying that long word. So it says the effects can be euphoria, increased energy, feelings of worth, and empathy. And it like peaks at the 2-hour mark. So then, like, I guess there's like, the symptoms of like what's the word? There's a peak and then a low. So it could be possible that's what's going on. But again, Bear's just, I don't know, Bear's dumb.
Well, we see him after work. He tells Nikki to go home with Ian, and then he's at his place and he's using an LLM to explain the symptoms of MDMA high to him. So I concur. He's very stupid.
And it gets worse because Nikki appears at the front door and she apologizes, claiming she was on MDMA and she was drunk, and says, like, I'm not saying you took advantage of me. And Bear automatically gets defensive.
And like, she keeps saying, no, I'm saying you didn't do anything wrong. He's like, well, I didn't.
And she's like wearing this red dress, which I'm like, I kind of felt like it didn't suit her. But I agree with the note you have. The shot is very eerie because like she's in shadow. And the way she's talking, like, it's not like she's saying things weird. It's just there's something, like, again, something's off. So
like, we only see like the glint of like her eyes and off of her necklace in this like darkness, and it gives her this almost this feeling of like when you catch a glimpse of an animal in the woods and their eyes like reflect back at you and that's all you're really seeing. And she just looks really, her movements are really disconcerting and almost mechanical.
So then Nikki's like, she wants him to be honest, and she says, I know that he likes her, and is like, hey, what would you feel like, if I return those feelings? So he confesses. And then, like, if this was like, a romance movie, this next montage would seem really sweet. We get like one of those sappy montages.
I thought this was a really interesting film choice because we are given essentially a rom-com montage. It's super sappy. It's got that rom-com-y music. We see them cuddling on the couch. They're making breakfast together. They're making out at work while Ian shoots them some judgmental glances. And like, initially, if you watch closely in the montage, he's delighted, he's happy, it's cute. But we start to see shades of annoyance with like Nikki's behavior from him. And the one that stood out to me is when they're watching a movie together on the couch and she's looking at him and he, not looking at her, not taking his eyes off the movie, takes her hand and his chin and turns it back towards the screen. So like the tiny cracks are showing.
Yeah, it's just and also, like, another thing is some of the outfits like Nikki is wearing don't really look like how she looked earlier. Like, I noticed this was really subtle, but a lot of her outfits felt a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess clean or something, like, because she kind of had like the sort of punk rocker vibe going on.
Yeah. A bit more, I don't want to like effeminate and soft.
Yeah.
Like a lot of sweaters, more muted colors, less layering.
And so then there's the infamous restaurant scene. A lot of people have talked about this scene. So Nikki asked about like Bear's like aspirations. He says maybe he wants to be a food critic, but it really seems like he doesn't have any aspirations. It's sort of,
Yeah, that seemed like more of a joke.
yeah, and it also like that's the thing is like he feels kind of aimless in a way. Like the one thing we just do know for a fact is that he's into Nikki. So then so they're at the date. Ian's trying to call him, and so Bear goes away from the table, and Ian tells him that Nikki's dad doesn't have cancer. He's super healthy, healthy as a baby.
He uses the phrase "as healthy as a baby." I've never heard anyone say
Me
that
either. That is, maybe he was trying to say like he's young and spry. I don't know. It was a very weird comment, but
yeah.
I want to also just comment like the score of this movie. I really liked it. I thought it was very effective. There's this
Yes.
like sort of, I really wish I knew how to explain it, but like when something's gonna happen, it's this sort of, it's very intense, but it's also very beautiful in a way. So then, okay, this is one of the scenes where I think Indy sort of shows her just acting chops because he goes.
Well, first they Ian's tells him the other thing he tells him is that the day that Nikki's personality shift happened, he overheard her and Sarah talking about Bear, and that Nikki used the phrase that she sees Bear like a brother, so that he's now worried that Nikki has ill intentions towards him. I want people to put a pin in that phrase in their head, like a brother.
So Bear's starting to piece things together, oh, the one which will actually works. He sits back down and Nikki gives him a gift, and it's a tiger eye gem that belonged to her mother. Now, like they've only been dating. I don't think they tell us, but it seems like they've only been dating for like maybe a few months. And that just seems like a really big step. And he's like, why would you give this to me? And she's like, I love you so, 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 so much. And then he asks, more than anyone in the world. And remember, that's what he said in his wish. Now, this is a very, very good scene. And again, Indy really shines here. He asked if Nikki lied about her father. And she goes, no. And then she starts going, and she has this really creepy smile, like plaster on her face. And she starts going, no, 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 no. And like it gets louder and louder. And she stands up and she's like, don't do that. I thought we were having a nice date. And like people are, turning around being like, what the heck is going on? And it's such a simple scene, but like you're getting uncomfortable because it's like the way she's acting. It's like, this is not how a normal person acts. Oh my gosh. And Bear's like, we are having a nice day. He's trying to like, calm her down. And she eventually sits back down. And like she even's like says, does it matter that I lied that my dad had cancer? And Bear's like, I guess not. It's like, Bear, yes, it does matter that she lied about cancer. You're being so freaking stupid.
Yep. So like right after this date, we get a smash cut to them fucking. And they chose to put this scene. I thought was incredibly interesting. They chose to cover it with this like eerie slasher music. It's not the sort of like music that one would associate with a sex scene, for one, at least not a nice one. And even though we can hear Nikki making these like requisite porno moans, these, oh yeah, more, like her face is completely not like into this. She's kind of like staring directly at the camera, but she's like, she seems disassociated. Her eyes are empty. Her face is blank. It's not moving.
She seems lost and like,
she
far
seems
away,
drugged almost. Like, yeah, she's disassociated. She's not there. And I just found that fascinating because the more you think about how much control Nikki has over like the situation and what's happening, I thought that this was a way to kind of emphasize to the viewer the non-consensual nature of this relationship.
It's not mutual, even though Bear thinks it is. And then this is another really great scene. He wakes up at like 3 a.m. Nikki's not in the bed, and like we hear her say, go back to bed. And he's looking like around his room, and she steps out of the shadow. It actually kind of shocked me a bit. And she's wearing his sweater. is saying, like, "It smells like you." Um, Bear's like, "Come back to bed," and she says, "No." Her face gets weird, and she tells him that she hates her dreams. And then she starts to cry uncontrollably, and she's like, "Why don't you love me?" Um, and again, once again, Bear is, like, really creeped out, but he's just like, "Come back to sleep." But, um, she again, like, I wanna say, like, the physicality of Indy, she does such a good job because, like, some of the stuff she does, some of it seems really simple, but it's the way she's moving. And,
Mhm.
I work at a haunted house each year, and it's not just looking creepy, movement is very, very important because, like, I'm in the dark, so if I start to move, like, jerkily or something, that people will get creeped out, and she does such a good job with her physicality in here because is this when
Yeah.
she wakes up
Like,
with the
no.
flowers?
That's yes, but, like, what happens initially is she basically, he keeps trying to coax her back to bed. One thing that I thought was really interesting is for the first part of that scene, despite the fact that he's awake and he's speaking to her at a normal volume, she's replying in a whisper, like she's not trying to wake someone up. And then after he says that he'll like lay back down, he's only got his eyes closed for a couple seconds before she screeches like, "Why don't you love me?" And when he pops up, she's gone. And then randomly she sidles into the room, and sidle is the only word that I could think of for it because she's moving angularly to the side, and everything is contorted oddly. Her legs are like moving like she's doing a fucked up Charleston almost. And the entire time she's holding a vase with flowers covering her face. And then she stops at the side of the bed and she just stops. And she's paused there with this thing in front of her face for a like unnerving amount of time. And then like you keep thinking like the music's building up and I'm like, "Oh my god, what kind of face reveal are we going to have?" You know?
Mhm.
And then she just drops it. Her demeanor's totally back to normal. She goes, "Oh, these are for Sandy." Puts them on the nightstand, slips it to the bed like nothing happened.
And then
But
this is Bear's like,
yeah.
there's no way Bear's going back to sleep. He tries to sleep
Mhm.
out from like she has her arm over him and he tries to slip out, but she screams, "Stay!" And he's like, Okay." So then Bear wakes up and realizes that some of his hair is missing because it looks weird. Nikki apparently cut his hair. And she says that she also packed him a lunch. And he tries, to talk to her, but Nikki kind of almost seems like she just apologizes. She smiles really weird. He then she starts kissing him to try to like distract him. And so then Bear says, "You got to promise, that you won't do weird things like cutting his hair, moving weird." Now, this is another really great scene is that he turns around and like Nikki's talking about going to work with him or like coming to visit, and you don't know what's wrong until we see that she has covered the entire front door with duct tape. Like every single inch of the door is covered. Now he manages to get it loose, and Nikki says bye, and she's wearing this really like creepy smile. Her eye is twitching, and you hear something that kind of sounds like water. The camera pans down. She has wet herself, but she doesn't
But she's staying in the same spot, same smile on her face. She's not moving.
doesn't she yeah, doesn't move at all. She doesn't react. She just stands there. So then at work, Bear's kind of distracted. He had so there are two pictures in his because again, remember this was his grandmother's house. So there's old pictures of him everywhere. Nikki took a really old one of him as a child that labeled you. And then another one of Nikki's labeled not me. And then there's a sandwich in there, and with a little post-it note that says, "For my little food critic." And
I thought that the "you" and "not me" were very interesting. Like, it to me, I think that that was the original Nikki trying to
get out, say something.
emphasize the fact that it's not her in control.
Yeah. So he's with Sarah, and Sarah says that Ian's having a party. Bear realizes that he and Nikki weren't um invited. So then Bear confronts Sarah about the conversation Ian had overheard. As she's upset that Ian, spilled the beans, he she starts trying to tell Bear something about Ian and Nikki, but her dad, who owns the store they work at, comes in to give her a college letter. It's another rejection. So that means there's only one school left that she applied to. And she leans against Bear and sighs sadly. And they actually have like a nice little repertoire moment. Then Sarah takes the note and she looks at the back. It says, "What's the verdict for Kat?" And it turns out that Nikki somehow, I guess, got Sandy's body out of the trash again, cut it up, and fed it to Bear in the sandwich. And
My guess is that he didn't dispose of it in the garbage, but that his at least my thinking would be that I would be, uh, setting things aside to take it to the vet to get it cremated.
oh, okay. That does make sense.
But or bury it. So,
and Bear,
which means it's also possible that she went into like the backyard and dug up a cat bodies, which is not
either
better.
way, it's messed up, and Bear starts to vomit. Poor Sandy. Her body's desecrated after she dies.
So Ian, at the end of the day, asks Bear for a ride home, and during the drive, he starts like interrogating him. First, he asks like, how did this situation with Nikki go from you being concerned the other day, like she's acting weird and she's not acting like herself and she scared me and whatever, to you're like a lovey-dovey couple? And Bear's like, well, why wasn't I invited to your party? And he's like, and Ian says, he thinks Nikki's going through something, and then notes to Bear that it looks from the outside as though he's taking advantage of the situation, of like Nikki's vulnerability. And Bear, of course, is very offended by this and claims that's not what's happening. And Ian's like, I didn't say that's what was happening, but that is how it looks. And it's not a great look. So here's our compromise. I'm going to make the party boys' night. And I'll cancel with Sarah, and like, so she's not coming, and only you can come alone. This will prove that like your relationship with Nikki isn't codependent, because you can be separate without it being a problem.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't mention this, but when you open the One Wish Willow box, it makes this like little noise, like there's a speaker or something in it.
Just a little song. It's like,
yeah. And I guess he realizes that he threw the One Wish Willow into his bag because he hears the music. So in the car, he calls customer support because apparently this thing has customer support. And so this is interesting. I found out that the voice on the phone, it's the director. It's
it's Cory Barker.
And so he asks the customer support if he can alter the wish, and basically he says no, but like the guy keeps it going, like, we don't really do that. I thought it was a kind of funny reply, but
yeah. Like, and I thought it was interesting because he basically, first he's like, well, you want to cancel? And he's like, no, alter. Like, not like, I thought that was interesting on Bear's part. He doesn't want to cancel it.
Oh, Bear, you fucking suck. And then he's like, is Nikki's love for him even real? And their customer's like, just because you chose for her doesn't make it less real, which it's not really an answer, but then Bear's like,
no, I think it's it's a condemnation. He chose it for her. He forced her into it.
Oh.
The situation that's happening is real, but she had no say in it. Just because you chose it for her doesn't make it less real.
So then Baird's like, "Can I cancel the wish?" And the agent replies, "The only way is for him to die." And then he asks, "Well, why does Nikki freak out sometimes?" And the agent, his whole demeanor shifts and says, "If you want to speak to her." And Bear's like, "Who?" And the agent replies, "Nikki." And then you hear Nikki screaming. And then, okay, so this is a scene that I think,
Bear just hangs up the
yeah,
phone. He
he
doesn't
hangs
do
up. Now,
anything
this
after
next
that.
scene, I think, personally for me, I kind of feel like this is the scene that just really, drives home that Nikki, like, we already know Nikki has not been acting normal, but when he comes home, he finds that Nikki has been standing in the same spot all day. She is covered in urine and vomit. She replies that she might have eaten a bug, or she hasn't eaten at all. And this is coming from someone who does not like to be uncomfortable or gross in any way. I don't know how a person could just stand there. The thing is he reacts like, "Oh, that is disgusting," but even still, it doesn't seem like he cares enough to try to do anything. He just ushers her to the shower, but then he also realizes that she's defecated on the floor. Like when he moves her
Yeah,
to the
shat
shower.
on that floor.
Mhm.
And she keeps apologizing that she'll clean it up,
Mhm.
which
And it's just
so in an emphasis of Bear's unrelenting cowardice, he confronts Nikki through the door while she's showering, first admonishing her about the cat sandwich, and then telling her that he's planning on going to Ian's boys' night alone. And you can hear kind of crashing and stuff. And she insists, "Oh, I want to come with you." But when he tries to refuse her, she smashes some more things and then points out that Sarah is going to be there. And Bear clearly relents, because the next scene we cut to is at the party and she's there and Ian is pissed
you can tell Ian's
that
pissed, yeah.
he's like, "You brought her. I knew that you were going to fucking do this." And Bear's like, "Well, Sarah was the one who invited her, and I see you clearly didn't cancel with her either."
And there's a other girl there too, so
Yeah.
so then they're playing drinking Jenga, and for those of you who don't know, you drink, it's like normal Jenga, but there's stuff written on the Jenga pieces. There were a bunch of different Jengas where truth or dare, stuff like that, and this one it's so the first guy gets a prompt to switch seats with anyone, so he chooses to switch with Bear because he wants to sit with Nikki. Nikki, of course, doesn't like that. Then one of the guys even asks Bear, "What kind of spell did you put on her?" Which, haha, he did, but Nikki laughs the hardest, and it's just very unsettling. It's that laugh that goes on for way too long.
All
And
right. I'll talk about this one
okay,
because
you,
I think it's
go
very
ahead.
interesting. So then it's Nikki's turn, and she doesn't actually read her prompt. She doesn't read it out loud. She looks at it, and then she stands up, pulls out her phone, and starts reading an excerpt from an extremely dark, incestuous version of Hansel or Gretel, where Gretel is essentially threatening to assault and then kill and or eat Hansel, and it is incredibly dark.
Mhm.
And everyone is silent. And some things that I thought were very interesting about this is, we know previously that she had referred to viewing Bear like a brother.
Mhm.
And the central aspect of this story that she read is an incestuous relationship, which may be some sort of indication of how Nikki feels is what's happening. Is this sort of incestuous assault? There's also one line where she turns and she looks directly at Bear and says saying that the Hansel and Gretel's love is a love only a willow tree could conjure.
AKA One Wish Willow. See, my
Mm-hmm.
friend, when we were watching
And
this, she pointed out the whole brother thing.
mm-hmm.
I was like, oh.
And as and also like even beyond the One Wish Willow could conjure, as in, you know, this never would have happened without this outside interference, is how I took that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so it's Bear's turn, and his piece tells him to kiss the person to his left, who is Sarah. Now, Nikki gets up, like, automatically, and she has this, like, really deep frown, and you know, like, how when kids, like, get upset, they have those over-exaggerated frowns? You would think it's funny. Mm-mm. It looks really unsettling. And she doesn't...
It's
Yeah,
horrifying.
she doesn't say anything. She stamps over to behind Sarah and drags the chair... Oh, like, the chair Sarah's sitting in, pulls it back, and it's one of those scenes where it's like, it shouldn't be scary, but it is really terrifying. You can tell, like, Sarah's not sure what's gonna happen, and then Nikki gets down on her knees, and she puckers her lips so Bear will kiss her, and then she stands up and is berating everyone, telling them they'll never experience a love as deep and special as what she shares with Bear, and everyone at the party has gone silent. Everyone's, like, looking at her. You know,
It's a really weird, like, speech.
yeah, it's super disturbing and weird, and Ian is like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. So Nikki abruptly screams and falls backwards over the table like somebody attacked her or something, and she's scrambling backwards screaming, "It's not me, it's not me," before grabbing this like huge thick bottle of alcohol and smashing it repeatedly into her face. And then suddenly her demeanor completely shifts again, and she's standing with the like her cute little face with blood fucking dripping down it. One of her eyes, the blood vessels popped. But she's got this like, "Oh no, did I do that?" kind of like expression.
She's still trying to,
Like
like, be
it's
cute.
very, yeah, while everyone else is like flipping out. But we see Bear has not like reacted at all. He's like totally disassociated in the chair, and you can hear them in the background like, "Bear, oh my God, get off your ass. We've got to get her to the
Take her to the
hospital."
hospital, and it takes a while for Bear to actually try to do that.
Yeah.
And once again, we have another scene where it's again, any sympathy you have for Bear should have evaporated at this moment, and if you did still have sympathy for him, it's gone now because he seems more angry than worried about Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
because, you know, again, she's bleeding. So I think he did try to take her to the hospital, but she didn't want to go. And I don't know. I think like a hospital cannot force a patient into the hospital, nor can they
Yes.
force them to
The
stay.
scene didn't really have any dialogue. They were in the parking lot at the hospital. The nurse came out, tried to get her out of the car, and she wasn't coming out. And then you see the nurse and Bear kind of like arguing a little bit. And Nikki comes out of the car temporarily and then dances.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of this is without dialogue. So we don't really, it's just kind of implied.
Yeah. So, like, instead of, you know, being like, "Are you okay? What happened?" He starts reprimanding her. And, you know, she says, like, "I was jealous of Sarah." And he asks if she even likes him at all. And then he rephrases
Like,
this.
and this is where to me, part of the issue is that at this point he clearly understands
Yes.
that what has happened, and that this is technically
This
not
is not the
like,
real Nikki. And again, it's so...
because he goes, "Do you like me at all?" And she starts to try to say that she loves him, and he like stops her and is like, "No, I want to know if you like me." And then he stops and he goes, "No, I want to know if Nikki likes me at all. And she pauses and looks at him kind of weird, and then gets this like fucking creepy ass grin on her face and says like, yeah, I'm your freaky Nikki.
And
which we know the real Nikki
hates that.
hates.
Yeah. And Bear's getting frustrated instead of once again being worried. And he's like, maybe we need a night part. And this Nikki starts freaking out. She falls to her knees and begging for him to let her stay. She's like, I can be whatever you want. And Bear tells her to be normal. And she says like she can't. And he then says to be Nikki. And she screams that I am Nikki. Once again, any sympathy you may have possibly had for this dude, it's gone. So then
like it's really that whole exchange, her saying, quote, I can be, anything you want me to be. I'll mold myself into basically anything. And like after a while, she doesn't say that she is Nikki. She keeps insisting she can be Nikki, which upsetting. So then she says that she loves him, and Bear just like, I love you too. And then suddenly again, she like yelps and moves backwards. And this like really
that scene was so unsettling.
blocky, blocky movement. It's kind of like an old film reel when it stutters, but in reverse.
Again,
and then she fades into the shadow.
Her physicality, amazing.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Obviously, Bear is terrified, and then she reassures him, oh, I would never hurt you. And then almost lunges towards him, and he freaks out again, but then she stops herself. And so, like, I don't know if there is a moment where the Nickies are wrestling for control, and that's what happened. This next scene was also very creepy because basically he's like, I'll let you have the bed, and I'll sleep at Ian's. Initially, she goes, oh, and then she comes back out and basically says to Bear that if she's going to be all alone in the bed, she's going to kill herself. And the way in which she presents this is in this calm, slow, detailed manner where she illustrates in just excruciating detail exactly how she would do it, slicing her arms, how it would feel to bleed out, and like it's incredibly unsettling
because she's like, her voice is soft and almost soothing, but what she's talking about is super disturbing, and that's enough to get Bear to stay with her that night. Of course, Bear is wide awake, and he gets a text from Sarah, and he's like, hey, we need to talk in person. He's like trying to be like, I can't come because he's afraid of what Nikki's gonna do, and he manages to get out from under her. Now this
well, first Sarah says in the text that if he doesn't come, she will come to his house.
No.
And that's what gets him to go.
Yeah. Because she probably has a key. They're friends, so it's like,
even if she just knocked on the door, I think that would be problematic.
So then he slips out, and Nikki says, kill me, please. It's the real Nikki, and she's saying that the other one's asleep, and he begs for Bear to kill her. And now again, this pissed me off. Holy shit,
this is the condemnation of Bear, that the real solidity of the evil in his character is he goes, what would be so bad? What would be so bad about being with me? And she goes, I've never been with you, Bear. And
fuck you, Bear.
Like, he just
fucking God
says nothing and turns around and leaves. And you could hear her as he's leaving going, please, please, please. Like,
Okay. So then we see Bear's in Sarah's car. She has a final unopened letter from the college, the one she wanted to go to, which is Luther, I think.
Yeah, and is also the last, letter. So if this one's also rejection,
she's got nothing. Yeah.
that's that.
So then, but first she's like, "What is going on between you and Nikki?" And Bear says that he's struggling because of her father's cancer, which we know is a lie. And Sarah says that Nikki hates her father, so why would she care if he's dying? And then Sarah's like, "I think Nikki is taking advantage of you." And then also now reveals that Ian and Nikki used to hook up, like for the like they were hooking up on and off for the last 2 years. They're like not in love. But she thinks that she says that Ian thinks Nikki is only with Bear to get back at him. And that would have maybe made
Which,
some sense if, it wasn't Wish Nikki being in charge.
but like, that also makes me curious about Ian's perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And this also makes me question literally all of Ian's actions from the start. Because while Sarah says, oh, they're not in romantic love or whatever, like, why would she need to get back at you if you were just hookup buddies?
Yeah.
1. 2, is that why you kind of been like insistent, like you gave Bear shitty advice, like calling her Freaky Nikki,
Mhm.
and you blatantly said you would never let him hit on her at trivia night and got in the way when he was trying to have a conversation with her? It's like, are you trying to help him, or are you trying to fuck the whole thing up because you actually have feelings for her?
So then Sarah's like, a Bear, I think, mentions that, Sarah had a crush on him, and she says, like, "Hey, you owed me that kiss," when out of nowhere, here comes Nikki with a brick. She smashes through the window, grabs Sarah's head, and starts smashing her face into the steering wheel with the brick. It just
Yep.
destroys Sarah's face.
She reduces it to a paste.
It's a very, very chilling scene. Nikki apologizes to Bear, but now this I actually kind of liked because she says, "This is your fault," and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"It is his fault. Sarah's death is completely his fault." And
Yeah.
they have to dispose of the body. He's later alone.
Like, initially, I liked that scene because initially it almost seemed like she was being, like, in any other context, saying, "This is your fault that this happened," like, because you had to go, like, and talk to her and stuff, would be, like, incredibly
Mhm,
controlling and abusive. But then she leans on him and says, "You wished for
which he
this."
did.
And it's like, "Yeah, you did. Your fault."
So we see Bear is alone in the car, and he opens up the letter that Sarah had given to him, and it turned out that Sarah had been accepted, which is just very heartbreaking. I feel awful for Sarah. Don't feel bad for Bear. He breaks down, like, screaming, and then after, like,
His actor did very, very
oh, yeah.
good. And that scene, though, I was
Both the lead
impressed.
actors in this are absolutely amazing. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know why he didn't try to do this before, but Bear goes into the shop where he bought the original one, which Willow, he is still covered in blood. Some like one like there's another person in the shop. He's like, dude, but the dude at the cash register just kind of is like unfazed, like, it's a Tuesday or something. But he's getting annoyed because Bear's being, erratic and cussing at him and being like, "You're bringing in bad vibes, you're harsh in the
Yeah, he's
mellow."
like, "Your vibes are off. Your vibes are rancid, bro."
Yeah. Again, this cashier does not give a crap. He doesn't get paid enough for this. Um, that he
But, like, I get the impression that this One Wish Willow shit has caused this sort of scene more than once,
probably.
and so he's just like, "Eh."
Yeah, because he even explains that he made his that the cashier said, "I already made my wish," or something like that, and he even tells, like, the cashier, and the cashier's like, "What the hell did you do?" And so he so like we said, it's called a one wish willow, it's one wish per person, so the cashier can't do anything. He's gotta get somebody Bear has to get someone else to undo the wish, and
By making something that contradicts
yes,
it.
and there's only 3 one wish willows
But
left.
as Bear is, like, thinking these things, you can't the exchange is rather muffled because you can like see his gears turning and there's music, but the cashier then suggests multiple times he should really just off himself because that would be easier.
Yeah. And that's what the dude on the phone said too, if you die.
Yes.
So
Mostly many people in this I don't find this script subtle in the fact that everyone is telling Bear he's a piece of shit and should kill himself.
But Bear just doesn't seem to care. Again, we're gonna get into that later. So he tries to break a one wish Willow, saying that Nikki only loved him as a friend, but he can't do it. He goes to Ian's place, and Ian is just because Bear is not really been communicating with Ian properly. We're also gonna get into that later. And so here's the thing. I understand why Ian didn't believe Bear and why he didn't take the whole One Wish Willow thing seriously. Because if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, this little stick will actually grant you the wish you make," I wouldn't believe it because we don't live in that kind of world. This is not a sweet honey fantasy land. Magic does not exist. So instead of doing what Bear asked, Ian wishes for $1 billion and it starts to rain from the ceiling. And this is a really good scene because like Bear I think he screams no and then he collapses, like he falls onto his feet and he just looks so absolutely defeated. As the money is rained down, Ian is gobsmacked, you know.
And Bear just looks defeated. He just said no. He didn't fall down or anything, but he like the way he just is staring at Ian,
Trembling.
and you could see he's shut down. He's like everything's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
But so he takes the cashier's other piece of advice, not the suicide, and that, well, if she'd do anything for you, why don't you ask her to make the wish?
Which is actually a
So
decent idea.
He rushes back to his house to try to coax Nikki into doing this. But when he opens the door, things have hit the fan.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little shrine to him and their relationship on the floor with like pictures and used soda bottles and things like that. And as he comes in, he turns, and the mutilated and naked corpse of Sarah, which is strapped to a chair, is just in the middle of the living room. And as he's kind of looking at that, Nikki pops out of the shadows again, like a fucking demon, moving really weirdly.
And also, like, you can see that on her arm, she's like drawn stuff, and she changed her outfit. I think she was trying to look more like Sarah, thinking that's what he wanted. So we hear, so
yeah, she's like disheveled. She's covered in blood. Her, she has that injury from smashing her face, so there's like
dried blood,
part of
a wound
dried
hole.
blood. It looks like, a very unnerving, like icky wound. Her makeup's, all fucked up.
Her hair's messed up.
Yeah.
And so she's like, begging Bear to love her. Now Ian's pounding on the door, being like, "Hey, dude, I have all this money." But Bear is trying to avoid Nikki because Nikki has officially lost the plot. She pins him to the couch and she's screaming, threatening to like shoot herself. And her screams are becoming more and more demonic and unhinged. Ian finally shoves the door open and he ends up dead because Nikki shoots him. So
yeah, Nikki just shoots him immediately. So he just downs him.
Both of Bear's friends are dead because of him. So he's trying to appease Nikki, telling him that he loves her. He gets the gun away from her and says like, "I gotta go to the bathroom." But when she's in the bathroom, Nikki's like freaking out, pounding on the door, being like, "Let me in," all this stuff. He's looking at himself in the mirror, and it is obvious he's going to try to admit suicide, but since Bear is a coward, he cannot shoot himself in the mouth.
Yep.
And like, see, Nikki's...
You can also hear Nikki... Yeah, go ahead.
So Nikki starts off like really angry, saying like, let me in. And then she's like, they should break up or take space. Like, she says it out of nowhere. And then she's like, hey, do you hear that? So then, once again, like we said,
makes me think that it's like trying to coax a reaction, and rather than actually, wanting to break up.
So then, since Bear is a massive coward, he looks through the medicine cabinet and grabs the oxy that had killed Sandy and takes a handful of pills. And now we mentioned that the actor who plays Bear, like they did the shot. I saw the little interview, and his courier is like, well, the shot's perfect. It's like, no, wait, I want to do it again. It's like, I'm gonna have myself try to like throw up the pills because that speaks to Bear's cowardly nature. And I'm glad that they kept that scene in because it just shows why Bear is such a tremendous asshole. But then we hear that sound from the One Wish Willow, and we hear a and he comes out, and there's Nikki. She's an absolute mess, and she's smiling very tenderly at him, and he looks like super happy. He's returning the smile. He looks like they're madly in love. And then we see the destroyed One Wish Willow on the shrine, but since he took the pills and couldn't throw them up, he ODs in Nikki's arms. So she's wailing, she's crying.
This I thought was very, very interesting because, as we noted before, the original ending did involve Nikki killing herself. But as she's like sobbing, over Bear,
I love my bear.
Yeah, don't leave me, don't leave me. She grabs the gun and starts to take it up to her mouth like she's going to kill herself. But then there's like a snap, and all of a sudden it's the real Nikki again. And you can tell in the way that Navarette like does this, that the tone of her sobs shifts like from these like wah, to these like gasping sobs of like disbelief and shock and fear, and she unceremoniously shoves Bear off of her.
Yeah, like, yeah, no.
And it's like taking in the carnage like around her, and it fades out to the credits, and we can hear her sobbing things like, oh my god, what did you do?
And that is obsession. And see, it's one of those things like I knew it was gonna be good, but holy crap. So this premiered on September 5th, 2025, originally at the Toronto International Film Festival, the TIFF, where Focus Features acquired the distribution. Can you say it?
Distribution
rights for 14 to 15 million, which is the highest price ever gotten by a genre film in TIFF history. Okay. And then it was released in the United States on May 15th, 2026. I'm kind of surprised it was still in theaters. And it's been a massive success both critically and commercially, and it has grossed $429 million worldwide, setting multiple box office records as the seventh highest grossing film of 2026. And remember, this film only cost $1 million, so they have made back their budget and then some.
Yep.
Which I always try to bring this up. It's like when films do well, you have to look at how much like it costs, because the thing is in recent years it's been proven that you don't need to spend like $3 million to make a good film. And again, this only cost $1 million. So a lot of people have praised Navarette because this was her first horror film. She has been in a lot of, I think, television stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, dramas, things like
this
that.
This is like her first step into horror, and a lot of people have praised her. And the film has already won 7 awards. It has won 3 Stiges Film Festival Awards, 2 Seattle International Film Awards, and an Astra Mid-Season Movie Award.
Good for them.
Now we're going to have some discussions about the themes. Okay.
Yeah.
So we just got to get this out of the way. Bear is the villain. Michael Johnson, who plays Bear, has even said he had to like reiterate because people were saying that he had said Bear was not the villain. He's like, no, Bear is the villain. And I'm so thankful that he is aware enough to say this, because believe it or not, there have been some people who've been trying to make Bear seem sympathetic, but he isn't. Like I said, so the thing about so I think one of the reasons this film resonates with a lot of people is I'm a woman, and there's also a lot of like AFAB people, femme presenting people who have dealt with nice guys. Like every woman I know, and like I said, I know people who are like femme presenting, like non-binary people who might be femme presenting, who have dealt with a nice guy. Even like I remember a story on TikTok of a drag queen who was talking about how a car was following them for miles. They stopped, the other car stopped, and the guy just got out to say that the drag queen looked beautiful. They followed the drag queen for miles just to say that. That's terrifying. So it's like this relates to a lot of people because everyone has dealt with a nice guy. Some people may be a nice guy or were friends with a nice guy. And like Bear himself, he thinks he is a good person, but we see that's not true. Because like, a lot of people have said like as soon as Nikki started to act unhinged, he should have tried to do something, but he doesn't.
I noted something that I thought was like part of the misogyny that Bear presents, and part of the whole nice guy narrative is, the idea that they're entitled to the woman that they want and that they deserve them for being, such a nice guy. And I think that one, it was pretty clear that Bear didn't necessarily care for Nikki as a person. He just, felt entitled to her. And I thought that it was really interesting that he clearly doesn't feel that Nikki is entitled to make her own decisions and have her own feelings the way that he is, as is illustrated by the fact that he feels like it's perfectly fine that he's not interested in Sarah and only sees her as a friend, but Nikki is not awarded this same lenience.
And it also just seems like, so like I said, the one, like that line where it's like, what would be so terrible about being with me? And again, at that point, there's no way he doesn't know that something's wrong with Nikki, that there's something else inhabiting Nikki, and he can't even, if he really did love Nikki, I think he would have like killed her because she's begging, for this release. But like he never seems to stop and think about what consequences his actions could have. He just wants to stay in this relationship and be with Nikki. But the thing is also, y'all might find me weird for saying this, but the thing that's inhabiting Nikki, Wish Nikki, despite her being this like monster, I feel bad for her too, because she's not she's trying, whatever it is, it's trying to make Bear happy, and he's not happy. And the thing is, this thing only exists because Bear made the wish. So it's being tortured effectively in a way because it cannot fulfill its purpose. And you can tell, like, when Wish Nikki takes over, it's angry, it is frustrated. So it feels just, like I said, I feel like it's very unfair to both the real Nikki and the Wish Nikki.
Yeah, because some of the takes that I've seen are that like Nikki is both victim and villain in this. And to me, I don't think either Nikki is a villain. I mean, especially not the original Nikki, but I also I don't feel that Wish Nikki is actually villainous because, like you said, none of this would have happened if Bear didn't, drop that first domino and, set off this chain reaction. She's clearly, trying to do what he wants and appeal to him. I can be anything that you want me to be. And it's not working. And I think that ultimately both Nikki's are trapped by the whims of this guy who isn't freeing either of them.
Yeah, he's basically torturing both of them. And again, like, the thing about the wish,
Mhm.
Nikki, is we're not exactly like what it is, but again, this thing was created to fulfill what Bear wanted, and again, it's so frustrated that it can't like fulfill its purpose, and it's all like it is also trapped with inside Nikki. And again, like the only way
Mhm.
for it to be free is if somebody changed the wish, like someone made their own wish, or if he died, but like, and then again, it's just like, again, Bear just really sucks because at every chance where he has to make the right choice, he is incredibly selfish. He still seems to think that the relationship can work, but also seems that, like, again, like when he says, like, what would be so bad about being with me? Well, you're an obviously selfish person. That's part of it. And it's really like the
Didn't
in
care about her
at
feelings from the start.
all. Like, see, the thing is also, it almost seems like he doesn't know Nikki that well, because when Nikki says her dad's dying of cancer, shouldn't he been like, you hate your dad? Wouldn't he know that if he was so in love with her? It almost seems like he's more in love with the idea of Nikki and not her as a person.
Mhm. And I just you can see these shades of his self-centeredness and his entitlement even from the beginning. I like personally, I think roping a random waitress into
So freaking
playing the girl you have a crush on for, this poor woman is on the job.
why would you
Like I
do
hope
that? That's not normal.
I I hope that you tipped her so much for
Please.
having to do that. And then, like, instead of getting Nikki the crystal, which is the thing that she actually cared about, he got her something different and then used it himself.
Yeah.
Like,
And like, again, also, I think the thing is like, he doesn't think about it. So this is another thing. It's like when he says, I want, I wish Nikki would do more than anything in the world. He doesn't seem to, again, it's like he doesn't really seem to want a layered relationship. He just wants somebody to boost his ego, it feels like, at some points. Because again, he also just feels entitled not only to like her love, but he seems entitled to a relationship. And again, it's just he comes off as so scummy.
and like, yeah, this leads me to my next topic of discussion centering around this, which is consent. One of the is both Bear's awareness and consent. Um, one of the dissenting opinions that I saw involved um, a reviewer saying
Oh god.
that
I know which
initially
reviewer you're
he
talking
didn't
about.
think, yep, he didn't think that there was a problem because Bear wasn't aware of what was happening. But this falls short for me because even from the beginning, he thought he thought that she was possibly drunk or high or having some sort of breakdown
Which is also
and
bad.
still kind of got, on her business. And then when, she acted erratically, he was like, well, you did it first. You started it,
Yeah,
you
see,
know?
if Bear had any decency, once she started kissing him, he would have like pushed her away and said, I can't like take advantage of you in this state. But instead he leans into it. He wants
And
her to kiss him.
yeah. And then, you know, as Ian pointed out, if there was actually a situation here where she was going through something, whether that be because of her dad being sick, which we know he wasn't, but like if that was actually the case, which initially he thought it was before that reveal, he thought that she was like struggling and grieving. And like he says, it seems like you're taking advantage. And it does, because it would still be a violation of her and the situation to try to push this relationship when she's in this like emotionally vulnerable place. So, okay, he didn't know she was lying or whatever. That doesn't mean that it doesn't seem like he's not trying to push their romantic relationship.
Yeah, and also just taking advantage of somebody, like, while they might possibly be green is also super scummy. And, but again, like, he just doesn't question any of it and also just seems more focused on what he wants. And, like, we were also talking about Wish Nikki. Wish Nikki doesn't get really a choice in the matter. She gets stuck inside of Nikki and has to, like, fulfill this role. And we had mentioned in the movie, there's this scene where, like, they're having sex and Nikki's face looks very devoid of, like, any actual, emotion. She's making the noises, but you can tell she's not there. So, like, Wish Nikki doesn't really get a say in any of this, and they're sort of stuck having to fulfill this role. But, like, even so, like, the, reviewer had mentioned, like, Bear wasn't aware, but even still, I think, like, I think it was way too I think the thing about Bear is I feel like he kinda lived in, like, a fantasy thinking that it was very normal for Nikki out of nowhere to suddenly be all over him. I feel like he just doesn't think logically about the situation at all, and again, like, I really don't think he cares about Nikki as a person because, like, if someone who I'd been friends with for years just suddenly started trying to kiss me, I would be like, What's going on?"
Yeah. And initially he does kind of do that, but he gets over whatever that is so quickly to like as soon as she's like, well, I have feelings for you or whatever, he's just like, okay.
Doesn't question it at all. And in doing
Yep.
that
And was like, oh, she was high the first time. That's
see, in doing this, he so, like, the death of Sarah and Ian, that is the fault of Bear. Bear ruins
yep.
2 lives, well, 3 lives, because he is so selfish and inconsiderate and also just doesn't think about other people, and that's a thing about, like, nice guys is that they do not think about the people around them, or they also don't think about the object of their affection as a person. They are an object to be won, and that's, again, I
Yes.
think why Bear is such an effective villain because he seems like he's a nice person, but as the movie goes on, he keeps making all these terrible choices, and he also just and, like, even when Ian is trying to, like, help him and being like, "Something's going on," he thinks, like, he kinda treats Ian like a threat almost.
And I thought that like for my questioning of Ian's initial motivations, I think that overwhelmingly from the start, Ian is the one who consistently was worried about Nikki.
Mhm.
He kept saying, well, I don't think that something's not right. Like she's not acting right. Why aren't you more worried about this? Like like essentially he seemed very concerned and he seemed to care because he cares about like Nikki as a human being.
Mhm.
And like regardless of whether or not he might have been kind of cock blocking Bear, which it seemed that he was doing the world a service, all things considered, I got the impression that he actually gave a shit.
Yeah.
Like after her one outburst at the party, he is the first to turn and ask if she's okay.
And he, like,
When
remember also at the party, like, Ian keeps telling Bear to take her to the hospital.
yep, repeatedly. And when they talk later at one point on the phone, he asks immediately if she's all right. And it's just I think that he actually does give a shit, and whether it was romantic or it was just a hookup, he clearly at least values her as a person and a friend.
Mhm.
And honestly, he seems to value Bear like that too. And I just think that Bear is one of those men who sees himself as like the chronic underdog in life.
Mhm.
And
Misunderstood.
yeah, misunderstood, wants his Hollywood moment where he gets the girl and blah blah blah, but doesn't have any depth of character and sees other people essentially as NPCs.
Yeah. Because again, the whole thing is just Bear's just like, it's me, 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 me. And he, like, when, every time Nikki starts to act strange, he always sort of reacts in anger instead of being worried. And
Mm-hmm.
like, again, I think that's like what really frustrates me. It's like, something's wrong and you keep acting like she's still in control. Like, when he realizes, like, the wish works, he should be under the assumption that she's not completely in control, but he still gets mad at her. Like, even when she hurts herself to the point where she needs, like, medical attention, he still reacts in anger because he's not getting the perfect girlfriend that he wants. Again,
Yeah, because she embarrassed him at the party.
yeah, he's more angry about that than the fact that she stabbed herself. And again, like, I felt so bad for Sarah and Ian because, Sarah, for some reason she liked Bear, and then she gets accepted to school only to die. And like when uh Nikki said, "This is your fault. This is what you wished for." I'm like, yeah, he needs to feel guilty because, like, Sarah was innocent, Ian was innocent, and if he had just see, another thing is, like, Bear doesn't communicate with people.
Nope.
When he talks to Ian, he's just like, "She's acting weird." It's like, "Could you go into detail about what weird means?" He just says she's acting weird. He doesn't mention the cat shrine, doesn't mention how weird she was
Mm-hmm.
at night. It's just he just keeps saying she's weird. And if he had, communicated properly, maybe Ian and Sarah wouldn't be dead. But again, Bear is extremely selfish. And
Hell, even like Wish Nikki at the restaurant points out that he's a closed book, that both Ian and Nikki have said that Bear is a closed book,
yeah,
and that he doesn't open up to people, and that lack of communication not only contributes to his existing isolation, but to the fact that these problems continue to get worse because he couldn't even like admit that he liked Nikki in the first place. He couldn't even shoot his shot. He couldn't even try. Like,
and that's also another thing with nice guys is just so I'm just gonna say it. Rejection's a part of life. You're gonna have to deal with it, but some people treat rejection as if it's like the end of the world, and that's kind of what I get from Bear. Even when she asks him point blank, he still doesn't tell her.
and I don't like the way that she phrased it, like, this is your last chance. And part of me wonders if part of the reason that she viewed him the way that she did as a brother, not as a romantic prospect or anything, is because she couldn't deal with that, lack of follow
Lack of
through.
backbone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So
Bear is just
on.
a very realistic villain. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, again, I said, like, every single woman I know has a creepy guy story, and Bear just fits the bill. Even like I said, his actor says that Bear is 100% the villain.
Honestly, I like that in many ways he has aspects that make him sympathetic. He has shades of a person that, had he made better choices, could have, been a decent guy. Like, he feels human. And that's kind of the reality, is that most villains, most monsters are human, and they have many things that makes them complex. But like, and I think that if there is any tragedy to Bear's story, that's what it is. That had he worked on himself and made some of those changes, rather than like continuing the way that he was, I don't think things would have spiraled the way that they did.
Yeah. This is sort of people have talked about like a new type of horror specific called like incel horror. And I do think that sort of fits where it's like the horror comes from a man who is misogynistic and in a subtle way, because like I think people think misogyny is just saying, "Oh, I hate women." It's like, no, misogyny can be extremely subtle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I understand why this movie has gotten so much praise, and it's also just very refreshing to have a horror movie that is not based on a pre-existing franchise. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just like, and the thing is while it is also very overt. I also do think there are some subtleties here and there. Um, and honestly, like, I'm totally fine if we get more, like, uh, horror films made for cheap, because then it's like, because again, like, you don't have to spend, like, millions of dollars. I wanna see more people making, um, decent horror films with smaller budgets.
And honestly, like in some ways, aspects of obsession are core elements that have been around for
Mhm.
ages, like the monkey's
Yep.
paw. But I thought that this was a really interesting take on it, and I thought that it really made me care about the characters, who they were as people. Um, but this leads us to my final discussion question: would you consider Obsession a possession film or something different?
That's a good question. I honestly think it's something different.
So do I. I feel like it has elements of a possession film,
'Cause
but it's not it's not quite the
yeah,
same.
like, we don't really know what Wish Nikki is. Like,
Like it has those elements of, it does seem like there's something else there, possibly an entity,
a ghost, a
like, or some
demon, we don't really know what Wish Nikki is. They never go into detail, and I think that's what kinda makes it a
yeah.
little more interesting. So, yeah, it doesn't really feel like a possession film to me. It feels like something different.
Like we do see that like the original Nikki is present. It's kind of implied that she's watching her body do these things. She's almost like in the oh shit, what's it called in the Get Out?
Oh, shoot, I forgot what it's called. I know what you're talking about.
The Upside Down.
Yeah.
No, that's fucking Stranger Things.
Sunken Place.
Thank you. The Sunken Place, where she has like a vague can vaguely see what's happening but has no real control. And like there's also some elements that are present in a lot of possession films, such as like the strange movement, the um onset of more and more erratic behavior. But at the same time, I do feel like it is something different because it's not really a demon, and uh it's not something that she's like exercised of really.
See, I'm, like, wondering if it's, like, maybe something's in the One Wish Willow that when you snap it, it releases it, maybe? Um, because the thing is, normally with possessions, the thing is malicious, but whatever is Wish Nikki, while it is I don't think it is malicious, it's more desperate, I think.
Mhm. Because during the one scene where Bear is looking up One Wish Willows online and comes across fake Reddit, um the commentary on it, which is essentially half the people saying no, it's not real, it's just a novel toy, what's wrong with people, and the other half where they're like, no, it's real. Like some of the other wishes that are mentioned are not, they're not things that I think could spiral out in the way that this one did, because one of the wishes was like, my mom has been ugly all of her life and now she's gorgeous, or something like that. And it's like, the other wishes don't necessarily involve control of either the person making the wish or other people. Having $1 billion does not, involve controlling, if it's falling from the sky, it doesn't involve controlling Ian as a person. Whereas with the whole make this person love me more than anyone else in the whole world is necessitates something changing that person fundamentally.
Mhm.
And maybe the Willow isn't equipped to do that.
Yeah, that could actually be a good point, because it seems like the One Wish Willow is sort of supposed to be like some sort of novelty toy, and, like, the cashier at the crystal shop said he made a wish and he seems fine. So I think probably with the one wish willow, it depends on the wish. Like maybe asking for, say, I wish for a puppy. Okay, that's fine. You're not really like trying to change anything about a person like fundamentally, but like
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think like if you had wished for like I wish to be the king of the world, it's like that would have repercussions. So like I remember when he calls the guy, he's like, we don't really do that. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's probably like the one wish willow is not supposed to be used for really powerful wishes, just simple ones.
It's also maybe it's kind of like genie wishes. You know how like the genies are like, well, I can't bring anyone back from the dead, and I can't make anyone fall in love with
Yeah.
you. Like those are usually like the
Yeah,
stipulations.
like the two stipulations. And because like in Aladdin, like when he talks about Jasmine, the genie's like, hey, I can't make anyone love, remember? So in order to get Jasmine's love,
Yep.
he changes and he tries to become a
So.
prince. Yeah. So like maybe if Bear, see, also like at the end when Wish Nikki snaps and makes her own wish, we see the instant change in Bear. And I was wondering, so like the wish automatically is null and void because Bear dies. So it's like, was something else inside Bear when that wish happened? Like, did something go into
Oh.
Bear like how it went into Nikki?
I saw one comment on this film that I did think was interesting that shows not only Bear's self-absorption and the fact that he doesn't really see Nikki as a person, that said, well, he could have made the wish not that she loved him, but to be someone that she would love.
Mm.
Change himself into something that would appeal to her. But he clearly didn't necessarily see anything wrong with himself and felt like she's the one who was in the wrong for not returning his feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, again, I think, it does feel like, again, we have no idea what Wish Nikki is. We never go into detail about
Mm-hmm.
what she could possibly be, but also the one Wish Willow, we don't know like a lot about it, but it really seems like it was supposed to maybe be something to entertain kids or give as a gag gift, but it turns out it actually works. But I feel like when people make wishes, a lot of them maybe would be a little simpler, but we also know that people have a tendency to be selfish. So it seems like, and like, he went to like that fake Reddit and he was like, some people said it didn't, some people said it did work. So it's like, you have to wonder what else did people wish for?
Yeah. Was it something that they would actually be aware of if it happened, et cetera, et cetera? But I definitely, I know that initially they were like Barker was had more like thorough lore in the original script, but decided that he kind of wanted it to be more ambiguous. I know there was also discussions of maybe making like a sequel that's not really a sequel,
Mm-hmm.
essentially something like in the same universe, but like different characters and a different setup,
That'd be interesting.
possibly still using the Willow as like the focal point,
Hmm.
which might be
That
interesting.
would be.
But I am interested in seeing what he does next. I think that he's talented.
Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna give this like a 5 out of 5. I thought this was fantastic. Like, excuse me, like I said, probably one of the best movies I've seen this year.
I'm gonna give it a 4.75.
Okay.
Taking that little bit because the kitty stuff upset me.
Oh yeah, the cat stuff was upsetting, and I know it was so upsetting for you because of your darling daughter and your monster son.
I kept being like, "No, come over here. I have to squeeze you and tell you I love you."
Yeah, like every time it's like I like there was a part where it's like, can we please stop bringing the dead cat up? Like, oh, it's just I know why
Yep.
they did it, but it's like I thought Sandy could
At least
rest.
not visually.
Yeah, I'm not good with animal death. So next time we will do our episode on Mary Shelley. It's just we both really want to talk about this film because it's topical, but also we had just a lot to talk
Mhm.
about. And like us on YouTube, share this with your friends, all that good stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Like us on Blue Sky at Nerds and Nightmares. We have links to our RSS feed so you can be updated when new episodes come out. And thank you for listening.
Right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.